Welcome to VMblog's 2021 Mega Series. And today we are going to be talking on the topic of end user computing and also work from anywhere. And I have the pleasure of having with us Nabeel Youakim, who is the Chief Development Officer at Tehama. How are you doing today?
Good, thanks, Brian. G'day, and thank you very much for having me on board. It's always good to meet up with you guys again. It's been a while now, but it's good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you as well. Maybe you can start by telling our people about Tehama and what your company does.
Certainly. We're an enterprise DAS player, desktop as a service player. Obviously been in that space myself for many, many years, having come from Citrix. And as I looked at the Tehama technology, I was quite impressed with what they had built. It's sort of taking, what we all know as DAS and taking it to the next level, making it a more complete solution for enterprises that are ready to go immediately with a DAS service that's more secure and enable their employees to work from anywhere at any time.
Great. And how does Tehama define the end user computing space, and where do you fit within the ecosystem?
Yeah, so obviously there's a lot of players in the space. Tehama is quite unique in what it does, and it adds another layer of networking and security above DAS and puts it all into a complete managed service. So no longer do you have to worry about setting up your VDI environment and setting up your servers or setting up the environment in the cloud and spending time on the back end. It's all provisioned for you. Within an hour, you can have a system up and running and start connecting users. The uniqueness of what Tehama does that is even different than traditional systems is it's got this concept of a virtual room. And in this virtual room is where you connect users into the room, and you connect the desktops or the environment that you want to use into that room as well. And that's how it's set up very quickly, because it provisions these rooms for you to immediately starting adding users and adding desktops.
So, I mean, that sounds like that's one of the defining features of Tehama, but how does Tehama differ from its competitors in the space, and why would an organization choose Tehama versus another solution?
I think it's all about the instant on components of Tehama. It's immediately available as soon as you decide to start using Tehama. We can provision a room for you very, very quickly. Like I said, within the hour, you can start adding users and desktops. So it's really about the speed of which you can add on users and desktops, the speed of which you can get it up and running. So if you got a scenario where you got an immediate need for a new set of workers, remote workers, or the need for someone to, with the pandemic, they'll start working from home immediately. There is no need to go and provision desktops or provision a back-end environment for VDI before you can start to get these users connected and working.
And what would you say are the key benefits for organizations that choose to engage with Tehama?
I think most organizations today understand the concept of VDI and DAS. They understand the value proposition. If they want to set it up themselves, obviously they can still do that, whether it's on-prem or in the cloud. Tehama was definitely born in the cloud. It's a cloud-based technology. It came about because of a need to provide a more secure connection for remote workers. The company that Tehama started from was a company that was doing a lot of contracting work where they had people working all around the world on very, very sensitive information. There was a need to provide better security and oversight into what these contractors were doing. Therefore, they built this solution. And the fact that they built it on a DAS platform or a VDI platform was the best way to enable the solution quickly. But really what they built is above what DAS does today in the security and networking of this concept of a virtual room, where it's very easy to set up and connect users to their workloads.
With this move to the cloud, and that's been accelerated by the pandemic, how has that impacted the EUC space? And are you surprised by the ways that EUC has been evolving during this pandemic?
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, for many years, I've been in the ECU space, and really it's been interesting and it's been growing quite well. And a lot of people have been coming on board and believing that, DAS and VDI is the future of how to connect users and get their work done the focus on user experience. Then the pandemic came along and just accelerated all that, of course. Immediately, everyone had to start working from home. Immediately, IT had to flurry for ways of allowing users to connect and get their work done remotely from home or from a remote location. It may not be from home, but a remote location wherever the user was able to get a connection and get their work done. So really, as for the end user computing space, it's been amazing, the whole pandemic. And as we all know, the pandemic will come to an end one day. I think we still don't know when that is, but there's no doubt about it that the concept of working from home and remote work is here to stay. I mean, both organizations and employees have realized how possible it is to do that. Some of the benefits and some of the downsides of it. So it's not the new paradigm, it's just an addition to the way we will work in the future. And I think at that time, Tehama was there. It was there at the right time to help a lot of customers connect very, very quickly and start enabling their employees to work, and also enabling third parties to connect up and be part of the ecosystem of work as well. So the pandemic has definitely given us a bit of a boost, but I think that the Tehama story was there to start with. I think end user computing was definitely taking some momentum. And when we talk about end user computing, we're talking about the remote desktop paradigm that I guess Citrix created many, many years ago, and there are now a number of players that work in that space, and an ecosystem of partners that are working in that space that add more value than just the straight platform that VDI sits on today.
So what would you say are some of the key challenges that businesses are currently facing as they're moving, or I'm sure they've already moved, but a lot of them are moving to a work from anywhere era? How has Tehama solved those challenges?
So the first thing obviously is to get employees to get connected and working, and most people just did that in any way they could. I mean, VDI and DAS was one of the ways, of course. It could have been a VPN connection, or it could have been just a very much a open connection. It didn't really matter at the beginning. We just had to make sure people could get their work done. And then things like security came into play, and people realized very, very quickly that, hey, we've got a lot of new security holes in our network that we didn't have before. We have so many people working remotely. And in the past, as you know, security was always about the corporate network and the corporate office and the environment. And yes, you allowed people to work outside of that, but you had a very specific set of tools that were complicated, but they were secure. But when everyone was outside the corporate environment, the network changed. The cloud really has brought a new world of security thinking for most organizations, because now their organizations are no longer on their physical premises or their data center. It is the cloud, and they all have different cloud assets plus on-prem assets that they need to manage. They have users connecting from everywhere that they need to manage, and the whole perimeter of the security perimeter has really changed completely. Now, Tehama came along with that in mind. Tehama came along knowing that these users were going to connect remotely in the first place. So they built a very secure model of networking and security, and then brought the sort of DAS engine underneath it and plugged that in as a way of enabling that very quickly.
And what are some of the key takeaways from the pandemic that businesses should be mindful of moving forward as they plan to provision their EUC infrastructures?
I mean, it's always about, the future is definitely undefined. As much as we can try and predict what's going to happen, we just don't know what's going to be facing us tomorrow. The pandemic was a great example of that, and it really changed the mindset from an end user perspective. But really, I think a lot of people are starting to now rethink their whole IT strategy. Modernization, or the whole idea of the digital revolution has been accelerated, and therefore a lot of people are rethinking not just the user connectivity, but their applications, their mode of work, and how they're going to enable their workforce. I mean, today we talk a lot about user experience. It is critical. In the office, it was somewhat measured that we could see the productivity of people by physically observing them. As people are now more remote, it's much harder to see that. So it's not so much about, are they working or are they not working, but are they as productive as they can be with the tools we're providing them? I think that's a big part of the whole new revolution that we're going through right now in the digital world. How do we make our users as productive as they can be? At the end of the day, that's the engine that's providing the productivity and the profitability of the business.
And I guess, is there anything else that you think you would like to add for our listeners that they should know about Tehama?
Yeah, I think it's about the speed of which you can get up an environment. I think that's really key. And the concept of this virtual room, as more and more of our workers are no longer physically in the office in a room or in a workspace, they're actually remote. The idea of setting up these virtual rooms, think about a sort of a virtual office where the old office had the first floor was the marketing department, and the second floor was the sales department, and the third floor was finance and the executive suite on the top floor. Well, you can set up an environment like that in the cloud now with virtual rooms. So you can have a virtual sales room where all the salespeople would connect, get access to the applications that they need, to the files that they need, to the work that they need to do. But also you could have a finance room and a marketing room. And as an employee, you could move around. You don't have to connect to one room or the other. You can connect to multiple rooms, of course, and get access to these environments. But really, it's a whole new world where the office is no longer physical, it is virtual, and that's why the concept of virtual rooms makes so much more sense. In the Tehama example, once you've set up a virtual room, you set up what we call vaults. So there's an application vault, there's a file vault, there's a securities vault, where you put all the important things that that room needs, applications, files, and the connectivity to the back end. The way we've set it up so that in the virtual room, the back-end data center or the cloud where the operations are running, where the assets are, the data and the applications, there's a single directional gateway that connects between the room and the data center. So now you connect your room to your environment in a very secure way, using the security vault, for example, to make sure whatever access and privileges you have accessing your corporate network is locked up in the security vault. Users that come in can access the security vault to access those resources without actually seeing the password or the specific logon for the backend environment. So the users come into the room, connect, and obviously there's a directory there for the room and other room assets that they can see. Then they can see the applications that they can that they have access to in the room. Obviously all the files they can have access to. So whether it's an employee coming in, where you'd probably give them a lot more access to your environment, or it's a third party that comes in where you'd want to lock down access only to the things that third party contractor would be working on. But everything is in this virtual room where you are able to see what's going on. Now the room itself has got monitoring built in. It's got the idea of a recording built in, so you can record all the transactions that are happening. You can record all the users and what they're doing on every part of their desktop, every part of their application. So the room itself is a very secure environment in the first place. Then it's got these added layers of what we call vaults for the files, for the applications, for the identity, etc.
And lastly, before we wrap up, what's a good place for people to go if they want to find out more information about Tehama and some of the stuff you've talked about today?
Of course, our website is tehama.io, tehama.io. So please come and visit our website. There's a couple of examples up there. There's a place to register, of course, to get more information, to get a trial, and also see some of our customer case studies. Also, I should say also for partners, Brian, we are welcoming new partners into the space as well to work with the Tehama. I know there's a good, rich set of partners out there that follow you guys as well. So we'd love to welcome some of the partners and the other ecosystem players in the end user computing space to come along and be part of the Tehama story. I mean, it's really the next level up. Everything is now provided for and set up day one, that you have the environment, so you don't have to spend weeks or months setting up your environment for VDI or DAS. It's already up and running, of course. But the next thing is there's still a lot of work to be done for the partner working with a customer. Customers still need to get their application sets included in the room. They need to think of all the processes they need to change because now they have the concept of a remote worker. And the partners in the end user community have been very good over the years of doing that. We'd love to have them working on the Tehama platform as well. So whether it's an end customer, whether it's a partner, I suggest you connect up with us at tehama.io, have a look at what is possible. And of course, feel free to link in with me at any time. I am on LinkedIn, and a number of our people obviously on LinkedIn as well. We're happy to talk to anyone that's out there and trying to help the end customer, of course, accelerate their move to the idea of a new digital world and working from home. It really is it's changing into a sort of a new platform for work. It's a new platform for the exchange of work. So whether you're someone who is looking for work or someone who is already working, looking for third-party environments to work into, then Tehama is a great way of doing that. So whether you're a corporate looking for third parties or looking for expanding your workforce, or you got an existing workforce that you want to just provide a much easier and faster way for them to connect, very secure, and when things like zero trust are built in, all those concepts that we talk about that we have to add on top of a DaaS platform are built into the Tehama environment. So day one, it's a secure networked environment. Day one, it's ready to run your desktops and are ready to enable your users to work from anywhere.
I want to thank you for coming on and speaking with VMblog, and hopefully we'll see you again in the future.
Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you, hopefully physically soon.
Sure. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more from our cloud technology partners, please hit the like button and subscribe. And if you want to get notified next time we post a video, please hit the subscribe and the bell notification. Very important.